No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of AEW All Out 2022. 15 matches, including the 1 hour, 0 hour. It is past midnight. It's officially Monday, but we have a lengthy pay-per-view event to discuss. Let's get to it. A very eventful show in Chicago. I will try and get through the kickoff matches very quickly here. Our first match was Sammy Guevara and Ty Mello versus Ortiz and Ruby Soho. Long story short, this was a bit of a train wreck. You had Ortiz and Ruby chasing them with a golf cart. Sammy Guevara got run down basically with the golf cart. He recovered from it, of course, and they brawled all over the place. They got into the ring. Ruby got dropped on her head, it looked like at one point, and Sammy Guevara was lacerated above the eye. We had Ty hitting Ortiz with a destroyer. Sammy hit a swanton to Ortiz, but Ortiz kicked out. Then Anna Jay ran down. She interfered. And Ty superplexed Ruby to the outside onto Sammy and Ortiz. And then Ruby started to make a comeback. Anna Jay interfered again. Ty Conti then picked up the win with the Ty KO. And I believe Ruby Soho's nose may have been broken at the end of the match here. So, yeah, this was a bit rough. It was all over the place. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this. Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter. Says, please click like and share. Say yes to no DQ. Hashtag stick to my shtick. And damn if I did not call it, but went 13-2. Not bad. Hey, 13 matches correct for your predictions is pretty solid out of 15 matches. We had Hook versus Angelo Parker. Matt Menard was out there interfering. Pretty basic match here. Action Bronson, who performs Hook's entrance theme, was there at ringside, and this was a pretty easy win for Hook. Afterwards, Menard attacked Hook, and of course, Action Bronson, since he was there, he helped out his buddy, got in the ring, made the save. Little moment there between Hook and Action Bronson. Then we had Pac versus Kip Sabian, which I thought was a good match, technically, but man, do I not care about Kip Sabian. He's been doing the box over his head deal for the longest time. And this was an odd match because this was Kip Sabian's first match back, but also Pac's first title defense of the All-Atlantic Championship in the U.S. Felt like neither guy should really be losing. Anyways, somebody had to lose. And that was Sabian. He was talking to his box during the match when he was unable to beat Pac. So I guess he's doing the whole Al Snow routine, like talking to head, but instead he's talking to his box. Not sure what the deal is here. He kind of looked like Johnny Depp with his attire and makeup and everything. I'm not sure what his gimmick is at this point. But anyways, Pac picked up the win. And then after the match was over, Pac was interviewed by Tony Schiavone. Orange Cassidy showed up, wanted another match from their previous rivalry. He wants a shot at the title. Pac said no. He called Cassidy a joke, told Cassidy to get to the back of the line, and then he left. And we saw Sabian once again yelling at his box. Dr. Dakota Scorpio sent in a $2 super chat, says, no karaoke to end the show. Letter grade up, LOL. Yeah, I will say that much. There was no karaoke at the end of the show. And shout out to all the early birds that tuned in right now, although I pretty much expect most people to tune in right away. City by the Bay, Stomach Bug, Chat About Wrestling, Michael Wayne, John Millard, Walter Cruz, of course, Darren G, Calvin Bowman. Thank you all for tuning in early. Matt Helms, I appreciate you guys participating in the chat room. Keep your comments coming. as we go through this card. We got one more kickoff match to discuss. Tomohiro Ishii versus Eddie Kingston. And let me sum it up. They chopped the shit out of each other back and forth. It was a lot of chops. They went for a long time. Crowd gave them a standing ovation. They did trade in some forearms here and there, but a lot of chops. They went back to the chops, and they did some suplexes to each other. Kingston hit a power bomb. Ishii kicked out of that. Ishii got in some offense, almost beat Kingston, but then Kingston hit the spinning back fist. Ishii kicked out of that, and then Kingston hit another one, followed by a Northern Lights bomb, finally picking up the win. And yeah, there was the whole suspension deal. Eddie Kingston was building up a feud with Sammy Guevara, but that got dropped. And this was a great match, though. This might have been better than whatever match Eddie would have had with Sammy. I thought this was great. This should have been on the pay-per-view, and easily the best of the kickoff matches. And honestly, I thought it was better than most of the matches on the main card. Really good stuff here. Like, sometimes you just got to keep it simple and good old-fashioned, hard-hitting, strong style, whatever they call it. Just two guys getting in the ring and beating each other up. It's fun to watch. So I enjoyed it, and I would recommend checking it out. Now, we'll get to the main card here. We kicked off the show with the casino ladder match, which, as far as the match goes, like, there have definitely been better ladder matches in AEW. Like, it was a good ladder match, but nothing out of the ordinary. You had Wheeler Yuta and Phoenix starting things off. Roosh came down, and you had Andrade. Andrade and Roosh were working together, of course, since they're aligned. Claudio came down. A bunch of ladder bridges were set up, and one of the highlights was Andrade giving Yuta a sunset flip powerbomb onto the ladder below. That was pretty cool. Dante Martin came in, did a springboard jump onto the ladder. We've seen these kind of spots before, like RVD's done it. Ricochet's done it. It's been done plenty of times. So it was entertaining, but nothing out of the ordinary. And, you know, we've seen so many ladder matches. So I like to see things different. And it was just pretty standard. Penta came in, did Destroyer. So his usual deal. He hit a Destroyer on one of the ladder bridges to Andrade. And then Phoenix got taken out. He jumped off the ladder with a frog splash, taking out Roosh. And then all of a sudden, we had several masked men coming out when the Joker was supposed to make his entrance. By the way, shout out to DJ.W. He's been gone for a while, but he's back. Welcome back, DJ. I appreciate your viewership and support. And all these masked guys came into the ring. One of them grabbed the casino chip. He unmasked, and it was Stokely Hathaway. Stokely Hathaway is your casino match winner. No, he wasn't the winner, because a final guy came down to the ring also wearing a mask, a devil mask, and he came out to the Rolling Stones' Sympathy for the Devil. He walked to the ring, and he had a very familiar walk. He came in, he grabbed the casino chip, and he was declared the victor. He was the winner of the match. He teased taking off the mask, but then he did not do it. And the mannerisms, his whole demeanor, we all pretty much had a good idea of who this was, but we'll get to that. I mean, the chat room's talking about it, so you all have your thoughts on it, but I'm not going to say who it is in case people are watching this and not looking at the chat room. I'll leave them in suspense if they're wondering who is this mystery man under the mask. And of course, the winner gets a guaranteed AEW World Championship match at some point in the future. We had the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus the Dark Order, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, and Hangman Adam Page. This match was fantastic. Like, unbelievable how great this was. The only negative, of course, is that like the Dark Order guys are in it, and they're awesome. Like John Silver is a really great wrestler. It's just that, you know, he's very much the underdog, and it's hard to really believe that he can win a match, but he's damn good in the ring. Like I really don't give that guy enough credit. He's pretty awesome. And Kenny Omega was back in full form. No compression shirt, no braces or tape. He was ready to go here. He was full gear. He was 100%, as the announcers were bringing up. DJW sent in a $5 super chat. I guess a question for the chat room. Was it me, guys, or did the Bleacher Report freeze and buffer around an hour and a half into the show? I had zero issues personally, but there have been times where I've had issues. Not so much with Bleacher Report, but more Peacock. Yeah, I would be mad, though, if Bleacher Report was giving me problems. I had none, though, at least on my end. So the storyline in the beginning of this match was that Dark Order had a chance to really work over Matt Jackson's lower back, and Hangman Adam Page was trying to show compassion. He had them hold back a little bit, and then the announcers were wondering, was that a mistake? Because the Elite took over the match. They were dominating, but then Silver got a hot tag. Silver was on fire, taking out Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa on the outside. Hit the spin doctor. Omega made the save. But Page and the Dark Order, they could not get the job done. They were triple teaming. However, the Bucks were able to get back in there. And the Bucks and the Dark Order went at it for a while. They laid each other out with super kicks. Page and Omega were alone in the ring, and the crowd was just going crazy when Page and Omega were in there, you know, playing off of Full Gear from last year, their first time in the ring together. They traded blows. Omega hit a Tiger Driver 98, but Page kicked out. Page hit an Avalanche Fallaway Slam. Omega kicked out of that. Page then hit the Buckshot Lariat. Went for another one, but then Matt Jackson grabbed his foot. Now, if you remember from last year, the Bucks let Page finish off Omega to win the title. This time they were firmly against him. Nick hit the Buckshot Lariat on Page. Bucks hit a BTE trigger, but then Reynolds came in, broke up the pin. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." Omega hit the V trigger to Silver, went for the one-winged angel, but Silver countered it, rolled him up for a pin attempt, and Omega barely kicked out of it. And the crowd, they really bought into this. Like, they reacted huge to this kick out. They could not believe that Kenny Omega kicked out of this. And then Page came back in for another buckshot, but he accidentally hit John Silver. Omega then pinned Silver, picked up the win. Awesome, awesome match. I mean, the man that gives out the stars will probably be given this 6 or 7. I mean, I would say it was probably the match of the weekend, like maybe even better than Sheamus versus Gunther. Like, to me, they're very neck and neck. They're different types of matches, but both were incredible. And I think you can argue either one for being match of the weekend. So yeah, this was absolutely everything it needed to be to really establish these titles and make them credible. And I know some people are like, well, of course the EVPs get the titles, but I mean, they went out there and they put on a show. So as far as I'm concerned, they deserve it. And everything they've been through over the years, let them have the trios titles. It's not the world title, so why make such a big deal out of it? Moving on here, we had Jade Cargill versus Athena for the TBS title. I feel bad for them that they had to follow this. They were basically a buffer match. Sounds like women's wrestling a decade ago. But that's AEW for you, I suppose. They kept it short, which was probably a good thing, given the circumstances. Keep it short. I mean, it really did not need to be on the pay-per-view, but at the same time, I like the titles being defended on the pay-per-view. I just don't like 15 matches, including the kickoff. So Jade Cargill had a pretty cool entrance. She busted through this brick wall, and she had the baddies out there. Athena had a hot start, hit a Meteora, hit that top rope stunner, the Eclipse or whatever it's called now. The baddies pulled her out of the ring before she could get the win. So they protected Athena here. Like, she was on the verge of beating Jade in very short fashion, but the baddies interfered, and the match went back and forth a little bit. You had Kiera Hogan interfering again. Jade Cargill caught Athena with a kick, hit the Jaded, retained the title. It was a short match, maybe 5 minutes, not very long at all. But I think under the circumstances, it was probably for the best. And now the question is, who will end Jade Berg's streak? Wasn't Athena. I didn't think it was going to be her, but would not mind seeing her get another crack at it and they get more time. We had Wardlow and FTR versus Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns. Another match that probably did not need to be on the pay-per-view. I mean, FTR should be on the pay-per-view. Same thing with Wardlow, but, you know, this just felt like a match thrown together. AEW versus Impact Wrestling. It was cool to see the Motor City Machine Guns, and, you know, a rare occasion where they get to wrestle in front of a full crowd of people. I mean, those guys deserve it. They've put in the time, and they've mostly been in TNA and the independents. So it was cool that they got this match, but really it wasn't needed on this show. And to me, this was a very predictable match too. We all knew FTR and Wardlow were going to win. And then especially when Sanjay Dutt is coming out there with a shirt that referred to Dax Harwood's daughter as a brat. And Dax Harwood's daughter was there too. So it was nice for her, but they pretty much gave this match away, who was winning this one. Anyways, it was a standard match. Wardlow was dominating when he was in there, and then when he tagged out, FTR was running neck and neck with the Motor City Machine Guns. The bad guys got the upper hand for a while. Satnam Singh took a cheap shot at Wardlow, so that helped out the bad guys for a bit. And eventually, Wardlow got back in. FTR took out Motor City Machine Guns with the big rig. Wardlow pulled down the straps, did the powerbomb symphony to Jay Lethal, hit him with like 4 power bombs, and then picked up the win. After the match was over, you had Samoa Joe making his return. He went after Satnam Singh. Samoa Joe done with the Twisted Metal, whatever that series was that he was doing. He's back. And then Dax Harwood's daughter came into the ring, broke Sanjay Dutt's pencil, and then Harwood knocked out Dutt, and then his daughter put her foot on him, and they counted 3. So it was very nice what they did for Dax Harwood's daughter. It was a fun little moment. I'm not going to knock it or anything. It was fun. Match didn't need to be on the pay-per-view, though, but they did it, and it was fine. Match could have been shorter, maybe. I mean, it was a pretty basic match, and the whole gist of it was for Dax's daughter to get that moment. So they could have shorn the match a little bit at least. We had Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs, which the way this played out definitely did not need to be on the pay-per-view. So I thought for sure Ricky was winning this one, but it was another basic match, not a squash. Like it went for a few minutes, but Hobbs got the heat for a while. Starks fought back, hit a tornado DDT. Hobbs kicked out of it, and then Hobbs got the upper hand, hit a spine buster, and beat him 1, 2, 3. Very basic match. Hobbs won clean, no interference or anything. I was surprised. To me, this was like the most surprising outcome of the entire show. Like, I did not expect Starks to lose this one. I like Hobbs too. I think both guys have a big upside, but I thought this was going to be Starks' night, and this was Starks' big moment. So that was interesting. I guess they're going to probably set up another match, and Ricky will get his win back at some point. But yeah, I did not expect this one. This was a surprise. Next up, we had Swerve and Our Glory. Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland against the Acclaimed, Anthony Bowens and Max Caster. Billy Gunn was out there, and this was something. This was quite the happening. The crowd turned against Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. They were loving the Acclaimed. They were singing "Oh, Scissor Me Daddy" to the tune of Seven Nation Army. I'm not going to sing the actual thing. But yeah, they were singing that, which is definitely a first. And the crowd chanted "You Can't Scissor" at Keith Lee. Like, my mind is kind of blown how much this has caught on. The whole "Scissor Me Daddy," daddy ass. The Acclaimed are like the super baby faces now. Like, they are like New Age Outlaws level popularity. It's wild. And anytime Keith Lee and Swerve got the upper hand, the crowd was turning against them, booing them heavily. And I'm thinking to myself, like, going in, I thought the champs were going to retain for sure. But as this match progressed, I was thinking, like, if you guys were not booking Acclaimed to win going in, you might want to call an audible here. Like, the crowd is not going to be happy if the Acclaimed doesn't win. And anytime the Acclaimed came close, like, the crowd was just so heavily invested in the idea of a title change. And when Swerve was on the verge of winning, he hit the Swerve stomp. Bowens kicked out. Caster made the save. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." They really wanted to see a title change, and Caster was selling his knee. And when he made the comeback, the crowd was just coming unglued. Seth Rollins sent in a $2 super chat, says the Acclaimed should have won. A lot of people felt that way. Dr. Dakota Scorpio sent in a $2 super chat, says, to think scissoring would be over in wrestling. I mean, if you can get that over, then I mean you're red hot. That's the Acclaim. Like, these guys, that they have gotten over with the fans. They have won the fans over. And Billy Gunn was on the apron, and he was the recipient of a crotch chop from Swerve. So they were definitely playing up on the crowd reactions. Keith Lee was slammed by Max Caster. Again, the crowd was going nuts for this. Caster hit the mic drop to Swerve, but Lee broke up the pin, and the crowd was pissed. They chanted bullshit. Swerve accidentally kicked Keith Lee. Bowens rolled up Lee, but Lee kicked out. Another near fall where fans thought we were going to get a title change. But then Lee and Swerve recovered from that. They regrouped. They hit the power bomb and stomp combo, and they pinned Bowens. Crowd was not happy, to say the least. And then afterwards, Billy Gunn got in the ring, showed Lee some respect. They did the scissoring gesture, but the crowd was still not having any of this. DJW sent in a $10 super chat. Thank you for that. I very much appreciate it. It says, it's cool for the Forbidden Door to remain open for other talents from different promotions to come in, but if they're going to keep losing to whoever's home territory they're on, I'm going to lose interest. I thought that was, you shortened that phrase, but I'm going to lose interest. And one thing, going back to earlier, like you bring in the Motor City Machine Guns, but you have so many other people that are not being utilized much. You have such a bloated roster. Do you really want to bring in outside people for a one-off? That's the thing too, that I think is a valid argument. Now, Dylan sent in a $5 super chat. He has an interesting take here because a lot of people were upset about the champs retaining. He says, this was the right decision. People are delusional if they think the Acclaimed won't get a bigger reaction at Arthur Ashe Stadium in a few weeks. And that is very true. We can definitely see another match here. Did not happen in Chicago, but they could follow up on it at Arthur Ashe Stadium. And they had the banners up at the Now Arena in Chicago. That's going to be AEW's next big show, like a pay-per-view. The Grand Slam, it's arguably the biggest Dynamite of the year. They could definitely book that match, do a rematch, and have Acclaimed win. We'll see what happens. But this was a great match. I mean, they did a really good job here. And at this point, I would say this was the second best match of the evening. Could anything else top it? Like after that trios title match, it was going to be hard for anybody to follow those guys. But this match was really solid. Next up, we had Toni Storm versus Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida to crown the interim AEW Women's Champion. This was a pretty decent match, although they were in another bad spot. The women got 2 matches on the card, and both times they were put in a rough position where they had to follow a really hot match. So there wasn't a ton of crowd heat. And if anything, I felt like Jamie Hayter was the most over person in the match. Like even more so than Toni Storm and Britt Baker. And Shida got a pretty decent reaction too, but she hasn't been utilized much in AEW. Shida got taken out pretty early on. Britt Baker hit her with the stomp on the ramp, and Shida was escorted to the back, but she later returned with some kendo sticks. And you had Shida doing well for a while, but then the numbers game caught up. Hayter and Baker were working together during this match. But then, of course, things were bound to fall apart between them. You had Hayter on the verge of winning the match, but Britt Baker pulled out the referee at the last second. Toni Storm came in, hit the Storm 0 to Hayter. Baker attempted to steal the pin, attempted to pin her friend Jamie Hayter. Hayter kicked out, and then Storm came back in, hit the DDT to Baker, and then hit the DDT to Hayter. She got the 1-2-3 victory, and Toni Storm is your new interim champion. And I expected this to happen, and it does make sense in the story, like that Baker and Hayter would work together, but they'd have the dissension, and that would be their downfall. So it did make logical sense. So I think this was more understandable. Like I don't think they needed to call an audible or anything, but Hayter definitely building up some momentum. If they play their cards right with this storyline, she could be a breakout star moving forward here. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, and thank you to everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you're enjoying the video, give it a like on YouTube. I would very much appreciate that. And tell a friend, spread the word. Psycho Jet Black sent in $2, says, should Thunder Rosa return as a heel or stay face? Good question, because you got a lot of popular stars. You got Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter could be a baby face. Maybe a heel turn would be good for Thunder Rosa. I mean, I would not be shocked to see that happen at some point, because it does feel like her momentum has cooled off even before she got hurt. Moving on here, we had Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Christian Cage, which really wasn't a match. It was basically an angle, and I think Christian was hurt here. He had his arm in a brace, so it looked like he was legitimately hurt. And I presume what they did was they just did the angle instead of doing a full-blown match. So Jungle Boy made his entrance. By the way, Jungle Boy's sister and mother were there, and Christian got in their faces, and the mom slapped him. Jungle Boy made his entrance, but he was looking around for Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus was supposed to be right behind him. But then Luchasaurus came from the heel tunnel. There's the two tunnels. He came from the heel tunnel. He attacked Jungle Boy. So we got the heel turn that I was expecting. And Luchasaurus choke slammed Jungle Boy on the steel platform that was by the ramp. And it was pretty brutal. Like Jungle Boy's back, you could see the indentation from the platform. Like it was brutal. And he dragged Jungle Boy's carcass to ringside, choke slammed him through the timekeeper's table, got him back in the ring. The referee checked on Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy refused to throw the match. He wanted the referee to ring the bell. So the match did start. Christian hit a spear. Jungle Boy did kick out of it, so he looked strong here despite losing. And ultimately, Christian, it was academic, as they say. He hit the kill switch, got the 1-2-3 victory. So yeah, they just basically went to whatever the end of the match was going to be, which was fine. I'm all for that, cutting this short. I would have said they should have done this regardless of whether Christian was hurt or not. Just do the angle. I think that was better than actually doing a full-blown match. Sometimes you don't need to have a long match. You can tell the story without doing a 15, 20-minute match. And I think this was all a swerve. I don't think Luchasaurus ever really went good. I think him and Christian were orchestrating this to screw over Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Next up, we had Chris Jericho versus Bryan Danielson. Jericho came out as Lionheart, so he was taking this wrestling match seriously. You had the rapper that does Bryan's song out there performing a live entrance. I'm like, whatever. I'm not really a fan of it personally, but hey, special entrance for Bryan, so good for him. This was a good match. I would even say a very good match. Problem was they put it so late in the card, and they're two of the biggest stars in the company, but I just didn't really want to see this match after 3.5 to 4 hours of watching AEW, plus Worlds Collide on top of all this. Like, we saw the fast-paced, high-flying stuff with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Dark Order, Adam Page. We had so much fast-paced action. They slowed it down, and it's just too late in the show. Fans are trying to save their energy for the main event, and it just didn't work on this particular night in this particular spot. I was kind of bored with it, and I think people were just waiting for the main event. Like they were polite, they were into it, they were cheering and booing, but I don't feel like this match made its maximum impact under the circumstances. So should they have not had this match on the card, or maybe put it at the beginning? I mean, that's certainly debatable. But in this case, like, I just could not really get into it. I mean, I definitely was feeling the burnout. Like, if it was on another card with 6 matches, maybe it would have been different. But yeah, at this point in the show, I did not want to see 2 guys on the mat doing submission wrestling for 20 minutes, which is essentially what they did. And it was very good. Not going to knock them for the effort. Bryan Jericho should have opened the show, according to Psycho Jet Black. I agree. Like, this type of match would have been better suited before you have a match where everybody's going 100 miles an hour. Definitely. I get the idea you want to put the top guys towards the end of the card, but in this case, I think it would have been different, either on a different show completely or at the beginning. So anyways, Bryan was gyrating, shaking his hips, asking the fans if they wanted entertainment. Jericho was taunting the fans. It went back and forth, a lot of submissions exchanged. Jericho would get on the walls of Jericho. Bryan would get on the label lock, counter after counter. Jericho hit a tombstone pile driver, a lion salt. Bryan kicked out of that. Bryan kicked Jericho's effing head in and applied the label lock again, transitioned into a triangle sleeper. Jericho got to the rope. Jericho came back, got the lion tamer on, and Bryan reached the rope. Jericho was delivering some elbows. Crowd booed that. Bryan hit the running knee. Jericho kicked out of that. Bryan put on the cattle mutilation submission. Jericho managed to get out of that, but then Bryan reapplied it. Jericho got his foot on the rope. Then Jericho cheated. He hit a low blow that the referee did not see. So Jericho cheated, and then he hit the Judas effect, scored the victory. The rest of the Jericho Appreciation Society, minus Daniel Garcia. Garcia was shown watching the match earlier. He did not come out there, and then later there was a little backstage segment. Daniel Garcia was disappointed that Jericho cheated to win. And I guess Jericho's not going to help Daniel Garcia when he goes for the pure title on Wednesday's Dynamite. Like I said, very good match, but in this particular spot, it was tough to get into. Then we had the House of Black versus Darby Allin, Sting, and Miro. Not as much crowd heat as you would expect, but they did get into Sting when Sting would tag in. Again, I think people were trying to reserve their energy. And I definitely could see Bryan getting his win back at some point against Jericho. I think this feud will continue. So Miro did not want to play nice. He did not want to tag in. He wanted to do it all by himself against the House of Black. Allin just tagged himself in, and he ended up getting beat up. They were working over him for a while. Miro tried to get back in the match. He got a tag, but the referee didn't see it, so it didn't count. Sting tagged in, got a big pop, did some stinger splashes, and he applied the Scorpion Deathlock to Malakai Black, but the rest of the House of Black came in. It took them a while. Sting would not let go of the hold. They eventually got him off. Allin tagged back in. Sting hit the death drop to Brody King. Allin hit the coffin drop, but Matthews broke up the pin. And then Matthews used Sting's bat on Miro on the outside of the ring. Miro was taken out of the equation, and it was not looking good for the good guys. But then, as Malakai was about to finish off Sting, Sting spit some mist. I couldn't really see it very well, but he spit some mist in the face of Malakai Black. And then Darby Allin pinned Malakai with the Last Supper and got the victory. Malakai Black lost here. A lot of speculation about him. Apparently, he blew a kiss to the fans and took a bow. So at the very least, it looks to me like he's going to be taking time off. There's reports that he asked for his release. It's pretty unfortunate. House of Black had a lot of potential here, but it's looking like they're not going to be a thing, at least with Malakai Black in the equation. So whatever is going on with Malakai Black, if he's dealing with personal issues, I wish him the best. They had a lot of potential, but at the end of the day, you got to be in a good mental place. So we'll see what happens with him when he comes back. where he shows up when he comes back. I don't know if they're going to grant him a release. Apparently, he has like a 5-year deal, according to Tony Khan. So we'll see when he comes back. If he does come back, hopefully he does. But again, it's got to be on his terms. Best wishes to him. And then we had one match to go. CM Punk versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. CM Punk largely cheered, not universally cheered. I felt like he did get a few boos, but he was easily the fan favorite in Chicago. Moxley got a mixed reaction, but a lot of boos. Moxley flipped off Punk. Punk was sticking his foot out, like basically daring Moxley to try something. Moxley flipped him off. Punk almost beat Moxley right away. Like he had early momentum, hit the GTS. Moxley kicked out of it. And I liked that they did this. You know, people thinking, oh, it's going to be a flip-flop. And people are also thinking in the back of their mind, the mystery guy that won the casino ladder match. So I liked that they did this with the GTS near fall right off the bat. They brawled in the crowd. Punk was taking it to Moxley, but then they came back to the ringside area and Punk got thrown into the ring post. He was bleeding, like just gushing blood, and it was Punk bleeding, not Moxley for once. So that worked. And, you know, in this context with Punk trying to win back the title after being defeated in quick fashion, him bleeding made for really good dramatic effect. And Moxley exploited it. He was ripping at the wound. He was licking the blood. Moxley was doing great stuff here. And Punk just flipped off Moxley in defiance. Punk kept fighting, though. He got the Anaconda Vice on. He went to the top rope, hit the flying elbow, or went for it, but Moxley countered with a bulldog choke, transitioned it into an ankle lock. However, Punk was able to get to the rope. They traded blows. Moxley hit the Death Rider. Punk, though, kicked out. Punk hit a GTS. However, he could not make the cover. Moxley fell on top of him, and Punk had to muster up the strength to get Moxley up. Punk hit a second GTS. 1, 2, 3, scored the victory to become a 2-time AEW World Champion. Great match. I thought they did a fantastic job with this. Great finish. And I thought this was the second best match of the show, surpassing the tag team title match. I still think I liked the trios match the best, but this was excellent. Fantastic main event. They told a great story here. Back and forth here. Punk brought the fight to Moxley. Really well done. But we're not done. CM Punk had his big celebration. Dr. Dakota Scorpio sent in a $5 super chat. Says, after this weekend, I'm mostly burned out on wrestling. Going to focus on other things in my life for now. My last super chat for a while. Well, I appreciate you, Dr. Dakota Scorpio. Thank you so much for tuning in, sending super chats, participating. And if you got to take a break, by all means, do so. There's more to life than wrestling. Seth Rollins sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you. Says, as much as I love Punk, Moxley should have retained. I get Punk versus Mystery Man, but come on now. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Says, should Casino Poker Ship be the AEW version of Money in the Bank? Well, I think it pretty much is, minus you can cash it in at any time. I'm not really sure how it works exactly. I forget what they do, but I feel like every year that it's been in play, they just have the winner get his match at some event. So anyways, the mystery person. We all pretty much knew who it was going to be. Not a big surprise here at the end. The lights go out and a voicemail plays, and it's Tony Khan. I'm not sure if they ever said it was Tony Khan, but essentially Tony Khan was telling this person that they need him back and he's going to let him be in the casino match. But he comes back or he's done. This is it. He's got to come back. This is the final offer being made to this person. And then we cut to a little shot of CM Punk and Ring of Honor. And then the masked guy showed up and he put on the scarf. So at this point, it is confirmed. MJF is back. He showed up on the stage. Crowd was chanting his name. They cheered him big time. He stood there on the stage. He flipped off the fans, though. And we did not get like a cash-in or a title change here. So they're saving it, I presume, for one of the New Jersey, New York shows. You got Grand Slam coming up, which could be the place, very close to Long Island. They could save it for Full Gear in New Jersey. You know, that area could be considered MJF territory. So this is what I was hoping we would get. My only negative to all this is that it did feel very predictable at the end that MJF was going to show up, but it needed to happen here. Like, you needed MJF back at a big event to set up their next encounter, the hottest feud in the company, arguably in the history of AEW, and now it's going to be for the title. So this was the time to bring back MJF. They ended on a big cliffhanger, which I'm always a fan of. Get us tuning into Dynamite, and to me, that's a big thumbs up. So in a way, I like that they did not do like a cash-in type of thing. I think this was the better way to do it, even though it did feel predictable at the end. Caleb Jacobs sent in a $5 super chat, says two-time AEW champion CM Punk. Thank you for that, Caleb. DJW with a $2 super chat says, do you think the phone call intro was a work or a shoot? I mean, it was a work. Of course it was a work. And I guess, you know, the idea is we got to see what the follow-up to this is and why Tony Khan made that voicemail. But, you know, there's the whole thing with Stokely Hathaway too, recruiting all the guys. So this could be a whole big storyline that's going to play out here. And I presume it will be, and there'll be a lot more pieces to the puzzle that are answered over the next several weeks. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, sometimes predictability is a good thing. That is very true. I agree with you on that completely. And Daryl Harmsay sent in a $14 super chat, ZAR, whatever that is, says, should we care about CM Punk? No DQ is the best. Well, thank you for that. I care about CM Punk, you know. He is still one of the best talkers in the business, and he had a hell of a match with Moxley. Say what you will about Punk, but he can deliver. Like, most of his matches have been really good. The match with CM Punk's match with CM Punk, yeah, right. CM Punk's match with MJF, the dog collar match, I thought was great. Like, I feel like most of the time he has delivered. The match with Adam Page was not his best match, but it was still pretty solid. I think Punk has delivered for the most part. And even if he's not the wrestler he was 15 years ago, he still has the personality and he's still a big star. Building Nexus with a $5 super chat says, will they do an MJF CM Punk double turn after that pop? You may be onto something there. And if they're going to do this match in the New York area, you know, that's going to favor MJF. For him to get that pop in Chicago, in New York, MJF's likely going to be the fan favorite against CM Punk. So they might as well play up on that. Dylan sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Dylan. I appreciate it. Says, considering what happened at the end of the show, is it safe to assume the backstage drama was overblown and that was mostly a work? Let it play out. Well, you're right on that. Sometimes it is best to let things play out. And I feel like CM Punk and MJF was always bound to happen. You know, that pipe bomb that MJF cut, like, Come on, guys. That was all part of the plan. And CM Punk coming out there after MJF finished the promo, they're building up to that. That was the end game. Have MJF off TV for a while, play up on the rumors, have him come back at the pay-per-view and set up the title match between these guys, which is going to be huge. Going to be a big match, maybe the biggest match in AEW when they get to it. So that worked out very well for them, in my opinion. And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, should MJF pin Punk cleanly or cheat to win? He should win the title. When this ends, MJF should beat CM Punk and be the AEW World Champion. 100%. You got to build towards the future. So MJF winning clean, cementing himself as the future of the business, as he should be. And Seth Rollins sent in a $5 super chat, says, MJF's pop was underwhelming to me. He seemed surprised by the reaction. Look at his face. I thought he got a great reaction. So I was not thinking the same thing. I thought that the crowd was very much into him and they popped huge. Maybe they initially reacted like, oh no, we don't want him to cash in and win the title. But when they saw him in like the street clothes, they thought, okay, he's just there to face off with CM Punk. And then maybe they were not as upset. Maybe they just thought that we were going to have another title change. And that's why they reacted the way they did at first. Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. Says, today in history, 1995, the first episode of WCW Monday Nitro saw the now shocking debut of Lex Luger. Man, we're getting close to 30 years ago? I mean, that's insane. Like, what, 27 years ago that happened? Where has the time gone? But that was a big night. I remember Lex Luger showing up and being absolutely shocked. And this was before internet rumors were really rampant. Like, I was not expecting, as a kid, when Lex Luger showed up, I totally was caught off guard with that. Psycho Jet Black with the $2 super chat. Better main event, Clash at the Castle or All Out? All Out, definitely. Roman and Drew had a really good match, but I was not feeling the end of that show. This ending was a lot stronger. All in all, I thought that this was a great pay-per-view, as is all the other AEW pay-per-views. Pretty much every one of them has been a hit, for me at least. Like, I don't ever feel like I felt ripped off at the end of a pay-per-view. Maybe the weakest one was the All Out during the pandemic in the empty arena, or maybe the one with the crappy pyro at the end, Revolution 2021. But even those shows, for the most part, I thought were really strong. So I would give this an A-. Not perfect. And a big part of that is that it was too damn long. I say this every time too. I would be fine paying $50 for a 3-hour show. Give me that. If I get a 3-hour show that has tons of great matches with no filler, I would be very satisfied and be a happy customer. I don't need a 5-hour show. I just don't. And I watched the kickoff because I'm covering it for the site. So obviously that's not necessary to watch that. But still, let's keep the pay-per-view 3 hours max. 8 matches, and that's it. We don't need 11 pay-per-view matches. Seth Rollins sent in a $2 super chat, says, does this mean MJF will no longer be going to WWE? Well, I would not rule that out. I mean, maybe he signed an extension, maybe not, but I think we will see MJF in a WWE ring one day. Just a matter of time. Will it be next year? Will it be 5 years from now? He's a young man. It will happen. I am very confident in that we will see him at some point. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, should MJF keep the Rolling Stones theme song? No, I think that was just done for the storyline. I'm fine with the music he has. Like, I will say this. I did not get his entrance music the first time I heard it, but now it's been such a big part of him over the years that now I like it and I'm cool with his music. I don't think he needs to change it. You know, you hear that first note, you know it's him. It's good. Keep it as it is. So anyways, guys, thank you all so much for staying up late with me. It's almost 1 a.m., so I'm going to sign off. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video on YouTube. NoDQ.com will keep you updated with all the latest. Have a great Labor Day. And remember to say yes to NoDQ.com. And I will see you all next time.